Hello all my merrymakers, I am Becca and welcome to what I am dubbing Tips and Tricks Tuesday. Whether you're new or returning, this is brand new, so let me explain this to you. Haha, rhyming, love it. Don't kill me. So Tips and Tricks Tuesday, I'm not sure how often I'm going to do it, but basically instead of focusing on a step-by-step tutorial for knit or crochet, it's going to be basically centered around either tips, tricks, or just little bits of information that I may think are useful. Now for today's tips and tricks, I will be focusing on the stitches found in the Yarnspirations pattern that I've been doing a knit along with, the Brioche cable knit hat. Now, I will include a link to that pattern, but basically what this will be doing is focusing on, it's going to be basically an abridged version of a tutorial. And there goes my phone, which I should have silenced. Focused on people who know how to read patterns, but may have a little bit of difficulty with this one. So without further ado, grab your knitting needles, 2 colors of yarn, and let's get to work. So for today's tips and tricks, the two two yarns I'm using is Yarnspirations Simply Soft, or Karen Simply Soft in the lime color, and Yarn Bee Soft Secret in pink. In case you don't know, both of these are 100% acrylic. Both of these are categorized 4-weight yarn. Both of these are machine wash cold, tumble dry low. Even better if you lay flat to dry. Alright. Alright. So in case you've never worked brioche, especially brioche in the round, I go through this a little bit in my other video too. But you need an even number of stitches to start off with. And I recommend a long tail cast on. If you haven't, if you've never done a long tail cast on, I go through that in my other videos a lot. I have cast on 42 here in what is going to be my main color for this video, which is the green. And when you pick 2 colors, you want to pick 2 colors that contrast, which is why I picked the pink and the green. Alright. And I am going to show you really quick how to do what they call the broken rib. And in case I did not mention it before, we're using, I'm using a size 5.5 millimeter or size 9 in English knitting needles. Now, when you are doing the base, I think it calls for a larger size. If you don't feel like changing out your needles, you can start with the smaller needles. Just do your cast on and your stitches very loosely, okay? Usual disclaimer, I am right-handed and I am a continental knitter. I will try to show you how to do it the English way. And right now I'm getting myself set up for magic loop. Wanted to show that to you in case you've never seen it before. Alright, so so broken rib is a 1x1 rib that you go through the back loop instead of the front loop. But for this very first stitch, because I am joining this, I am going to go through the front loop. And I forgot a stitch marker. I will get that here in just a second. Anyway, so purling through the back loop. And what this does is it creates, like I said, just a looser version of the 1x1 rib, because one of the things that happens when you have brioche, it grows. So you want that room to grow. So I'm doing this loosely, and I'm going through the back loop, and that's what's going to create my broken rib. I'm going to do a couple rounds of this, and then I'll show you how to set up I'm going to quickly show you how to set up your brioche. So now that we've got a couple of rounds of the broken rib, we are ready to establish the brioche knit pattern. Now, if you are following the Yarn Inspiration pattern, it tells you to do that in the color that you cast on with. I am going to show you how to do this in my contrasting color, just so that you can see the difference. And my beginning of round stitch marker does not want to stay on today. So, to set up beginning round, or the beginning of your brioche, and whatever color you choose to start with as far as knitting, that will always be the color you're knitting with. And then your other color will be the color that you're always purling with. Alright, so we knit the first stitch, bring our yarn front, slip this stitch purlwise, and then wrap the yarn around the needle to create 2 stitches. Then we bring the yarn back to the back so that we can knit the next stitch. Yarn front, slip this stitch purlwise, bring the yarn back around the needle to create a second loop, and then knit the next stitch. And so now you can see you've got alternating colors of pink and then pink with green. And you are going to do that all the way around if you're doing brioche in the round. Alright, next I will show you how to purl. Okay, now that we have done our setup row with the knitting, we are ready to purl with the green. So we bring the yarn front, and the very first stitch, since that's supposed to be a knit stitch, we just slip that stitch. Now we might have to tug on this tail to keep it next to the needle, but we slip that stitch with the yarn in front, wrap the yarn around the needle to create a second loop, and have it in front so that you can purl the next 2 stitches together. So, yarn front, slip this stitch purlwise with the yarn in front, then take your yarn, wrap it around the needle to create a second loop, bring it back front so that you can purl these 2 stitches together. And that is how you do a brioche purl stitch. And that's going to go all the way around. And then I'm going to show you how to do a knitting, a brioche regular knit next. I forgot my little editing tool friend, so you're going to have to deal with me using my fingers for editing. Alright, so I am getting towards the end of my purl round, and I just want to make sure that when you get to your last stitch, see how my pink is just kind of hanging down there? I need to bring it back up over my needle. Where did my green working yarn go? There we go. And purl those two together. Alright. And now we are ready to knit again. So the regular brioche knit is very similar to what we did for setup. But it is slightly different, and the way it's written in the pattern is also kind of different. So I wanted to make sure that you are familiar with it. So the way the pattern's written, you knit two together, and it's talking about the pink, in this case the pink stitch and the green stitch. Then you bring the yarn front. There's two stitches there. Here we go. Bring the yarn front, slip this stitch purlwise as if, and then wrap the yarn around the needle, creating a second loop. Bring it back to the back so you can knit these two together. Again, pull on that pink line. Because if you're making a hat, you don't want gaps. Now, this obviously is not enough for a hat unless I'm making a hat for a doll. Because this is, I think I said 42 stitches. Alright, so again, yarn front, slip this stitch purlwise, wrap the yarn around the needle to create a second loop, and knit those two together. We're going to do that all the way around. And this, your knit row is always going to be followed by a purl row, which I won't go over again since this is supposed to be the abridged version. Next, what I'm going to show you is weird stitches in order of appearance. So, weird stitches in order of appearance. We're going to start with the brioche double decrease. So brioche, the way they wrote it is kind of confusing. But you slip these two stitches as if you're going to knit them. You slip this stitch as if you're going to knit it. And then you knit this third stitch. Then you take all these stitches that you passed over, make sure you grab all three, and pass them over that knit stitch. And this is the best, I found that this is the best way to do that double decrease so that the color lays nicely. Because what the predominant color you want to see is the pink, or in this, whatever color you're knitting with. Alright. Contrasting with a regular knit brioche so that you can see the difference. And then showing you the decrease one more time. You slip these two stitches as if to knit. You slip this stitch as if to knit. You knit these two stitches together. Then you take all three of these stitches, which might be a little cumbersome, and pass them over the stitch you just knit. And you might want to practice this one because it is a little bit fiddly. Alright. Just doing a couple of regular knit brioche to get me to the other side here of my magic loop. We are still knitting. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the increase now. Alright, so this first stitch on this side I'm going to regular brioche knit because that's what works best for me. Alright, so the increase is written knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit all next in the next 2 stitches. So you're putting 3 stitches where there is 1. Contrasting with a regular brioche knit here where you just knit 2 together and then slip the next stitch. So again, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit all in the next 2 stitches. Now, this does create a little bit of a hole, but once you block, even with acrylic, if you block it, it will be hardly noticeable. All right, and next I am going to show you, okay, what's going on here? Oh, no, we're fine. We're fine. How to purl after you do all that nonsense, because it can be a little intimidating to purl after all that nonsense. Should have purled with the pink. That way we would have remembered purl is for pink. Oh well. Alright, so we're about to purl. For this one, we're using the green color. Alright. So, you still slip the stitches that are knit stitches purlwise with your yarn in front, and then wrap the yarn around the needle to create a second loop. And then any stitch that you see as a purl, go ahead and purl. Now if there are 2, purl the 2 together. Now why did I say that might be intimidating? Well, where's our decrease? Okay, it's down here. It's a little hard to see. But even with the decrease, you're going to have a single knit stitch by itself, followed by 2 of opposite color, purple, for the purl. See, here's our decrease. There's only 1 stitch, 1 pink stitch by itself. So we bring our yarn front, slip purlwise, wrap my yarn around the needle to create 2 stitches there. Alright. So I'll show you how to do the other side, which was the increase next. Again, this is either 4 or 5. I can't remember. Anyway, This is why having a dry erase board is so much more effective than trying to keep track in your head. Alright, so we're on the other side, which was the increase side. Alright, so the first stitch was a normal stitch. We pass it, or we slip it purlwise with the yarn in front, bring the yarn around to create a second loop so that we're ready, and so that we're ready to purl two together for the next stitch. And splitty yarn is splitty. Alright, now here is our increase. I can tell because I've got 3 of the same color in a row. Alright, so we just purled 2 together.
Rebecca, here is your reminder. Rotate the pork.
Alexa, dismiss. So we're going to slip the first stitch purlwise with the yarn in front and wrap the yarn around the needle. Then the second stitch, we're going to purl it. And then the next stitch, we're going to slip purlwise with the yarn in front, wrap the yarn around the needle to create that second loop. So, and I'm going to show you that one more time. So here's a regular one where I just am slipping a knit stitch, wrapping my yarn around the needle, and then purling the next 2 together. And since I just purled, I know I need to, here's the 3 of the same color. Since I just purled, I know I need to slip this stitch purlwise with my yarn in front, wrap my yarn around the needle so that it's ready to purl this single stitch that's by itself. Getting the yarn to cooperate sometimes is a little bit of a pain. And then you slip this next stitch purlwise, wrap the yarn around the needle, creating that second loop. Now there should be 2 loops here. I don't know why there isn't. Probably just slipped off. Sometimes that happens. Purl 2 together. And that's all you need to know for the stitches for this hat, or for that pattern. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but for a hot minute my camcorder was throwing a fit. Might be time to start putting away money to save up for a new one, because this one is old, guys. And I'm covering my mouth. I do apologize for that. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful, especially if you've been following along with the knit along. If there are any tips or tricks that you would like to know, or tips or tricks you would like to share, feel free to reach out to me. I will have my email down below. I will have a link to the pattern that I've mentioned down below. I am not affiliated with Yarnspirations, but I do have their permission to do these tutorials. So, if you liked what you see, please give me a like. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so and sharing with your friends. And in the meantime, make what makes you merry. Ciao.